In this lesson, we're going to review and learn more about solving equations like this one, where the variable is squared. If you were asked what's 3 squared, you would probably say 9. And that's correct. If you were asked what is negative 3 squared, hopefully you would also say 9. Because remember, a negative times a negative is positive, so negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. But what if you were asked to go backwards and find the square root of 9? Well, if you go backwards here, we know that 3 squared was 9, so the square root of 9 can be positive 3. But negative 3 squared is also positive 9. So the square root of 9 could also be negative 3. So that means that the square root of 9 actually has 2 possible values, positive 3 or negative 3. We represent this by writing both the signs. So the square root of positive 9 is plus or minus 3. We can use that over here when we go to solve this equation. Right now, x isn't by itself. It's being squared. The opposite of squaring is a square root. So to get rid of the exponent, we need to take the square root. So I take the square root of x squared. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So if I take the square root over here, I also have to take the square root of 9. Now the square and the square root, they cancel out. And on this side, I'm going to be left with x. I bring down the equal sign. From doing this over here, we should know that the square root of 9 can be plus or minus 3. So in this case, x could be positive 3 or negative 3. So that's my final answer. Let's look at another example. Here I have x squared equals 25. Again, I need to get rid of the square, and so to do that I take the square root, and what I do to one side I have to do to the other. So the square and square root cancel out, and on this side I'm just left with x. The square root of 25 is plus or minus 5. Make sure you have this example and the one before it copied down, so go ahead and pause before you move on. Now this example is a little bit more complicated, and this is where we're going to be learning something new. In this problem, it's not just the x that's being squared, but this whole binomial. Because the whole binomial is being squared, I need to take the square root of the entire thing. And if I take the square root of this whole side, I need to take the square root of this side. So on this side, the square and the square root, they cancel out. And what's left is this x plus 6. So I'll rewrite that. On this side, the square root of 81 is 9, but it could also be negative 9, so I write plus or minus 9. Now on this side, I'm not done yet because it's still being bothered by the 6. So it's a plus 6, so I have to subtract 6 to both sides. These 6's cancel out, and I'm left with x equals, and then watch carefully what I do on this side. I'm going to basically rewrite this and keep the sign with each number. So we usually leave the plus and minus for last, so I'll start with this. It was a minus 6, so that means I need to write negative 6. So the sign of this was negative. Here the sign is positive and negative, so I write plus or minus 9. Because our 9 has 2 signs, we're going to have to simplify this twice, once with the plus sign and then once with the minus sign. So I'm going to rewrite this 2 times using a different sign each time. Watch carefully what I do. The first time I write x equals, and I recopy the negative 6, and this time I'm going to take the positive, so I say plus 9. And then I rewrite it a second time. So again, I just start copying. I say x equals negative 6. Then I get to this again. I already used the plus over here. So this time I'm going to say minus 9. And now I just need to finish simplifying both of them. So in this one, x equals negative 6 plus 9. I'm going to get x equals, and negative 6 plus 9 is 3. And then over here, x equals negative 6 minus 9 is negative 15. So there's 2 possible answers to this one, positive 3 or negative 15. Go ahead, copy this, and then go on to the next example. This last example is a lot like the one we just did, except we'll see that it doesn't work out exactly, and we'll talk about what to do for that. So again, the x minus 5, the entire thing is being squared, so then I need to take the square root of this side, and then what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. The square and square root cancel out, so I'm left with the x minus 5. Then on this side, I know it's going to be a positive and a negative because both are possibilities when we take a square root, but 15 isn't a perfect square. So I'm just going to rewrite it as the square root of 15. Now over here, x is being 5 is being taken away from it, so we need to add 5 to both sides. These 5s cancel out. So I bring down the x, the equals, and then again I have to rewrite this carefully. So I'm going to write the 5 first. It's positive, so I'm just going to leave it positive. And then I have to rewrite the plus or minus 15. Sorry, plus or minus the square root 15. Alright, and then I had this plus or minus sign, which means I'm going to have to write it twice, once with the plus sign, once with the minus sign. So I write x equals 5 plus root 15, and then x equals 5 minus root 15. Now I need to simplify both of these, and I'm going to have to use my calculator to do this. So first, in your calculator, I want you to put in 5 plus the square root of 15. And if you're not sure what the square root sign is, you press second and then press the x squared button. When you put that in, you get a number with a lot of decimals. We're going to round to 3 decimal places. So we get 8.87, and after that your calculator probably says 2, but after the 2 there's a 9, so that means that 2 rounds up to 3. Alright, so that's one of our answers. Now you need to put this into your calculator. So go ahead and press pause and do that. And that should give you x equals 1.127. So this is our final answer. Go ahead, copy this, and then start the practice. Good luck.